Video on the 992. I think I should have checked that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 992 GT3 RS. Really special car. Been working on it all week. And I asked you guys last night, and I kind of implied that the car had left already, because usually I don't notify everybody on social that a car is being worked on until it has left for security. But I asked you for some questions. None of you gave me any questions, so I'm just going to wing it and, and give information that I think you might like about the detail, and maybe a little bit about the car as well. Mary's come to film. You might remember Mary from FIAB 4. Anyway, Mary worked for us for a few years as a detailer, and then used to pack products and stuff. Yeah. So Mary's behind the camera today, and we're just going to run around the car and refer to some B-roll that I took during the week of the process being done. This is a new GT3 RS, and the customer brought it in for a detail, and I thought, well, it'll be in pretty good nick, so it won't require too much work, maybe a day, maybe two. Customer's pretty fussy, so I thought I'll get 2 days. The customer said, I've actually got some issues with it. Specifically, he pointed to the bonnet, and he said that there was something here and we couldn't really see what it was. He said just around here there's some issues, and actually couldn't see it. The car was dirty. He brought it to us dirty. Customer's great guy, who's a very good steerer, used to race semi-professionally, very, very good driver, and actually uses the car. So he brought the car in filthy, properly filthy, which is really good to see. Tyres scrubbed, you know, he'd really been using it. And once I got it all cleaned, we found a denib, or I found a denib spot there. So I think Porsche factory had buffed some dirt out, and they didn't correct the residual from that. Then, moving around the car, found another and another and another and another. So there were a couple of dozen denibbing marks where, and definitely an orbital sander, probably air powered, but don't want to do too much detailing detective. There were some marks which I'll put up on screen now that you can see, just peppered all around the car. Every panel had at least one. So it turned into this, because the customer's so fussy, which is another, this is why I like this customer so much. He said, you got plenty of time, you got all week, and budget's not a problem, and he's happy to have the car here for that long. And I had a week, which is good. So bad because there's no excuses not for the car to be absolutely perfect, but good because I get a whole week to really do it properly and really impress the customer, which is hard to do for this guy. Where did I find? Actually the bonnet was probably the worst section. Apart from having that denib spot there, had hologramming absolutely everywhere, so they had gone at it. He did ask the dealer to correct the imperfections, the denibbing mark that he saw, and I think he saw some holograms, and they were a bit apprehensive, apparently, from what he's telling me. They were a bit apprehensive of doing too much correction, probably because it's kind of, you know, exotic materials, and some detailers are a little bit wary cutting too hard into cleared carbon, which I understand, especially back in the day. The first time I did any kind of cleared carbon work, I was freaking out. But Porsche, even race car for the road Porsche, excellent quality. The quality is so high. For instance, I was explaining to Mary this morning before we started filming, it's obviously a carbon bonnet, and they've got the white paint here, and where they've met the white paint and where you would have the white paint raised, they've cleared over the top, wet sanded. Maybe they didn't, but I would be surprised if this wasn't the process. And then and kind of flow coated, where they've put the clear coat back over, and then maybe even wet sanded again and back over again, because this is seamless. This transition from white paint to cleared carbon is completely seamless. And the transition of sticker, they didn't put a badge, they put a sticker. Porsche's done this before, where the clear goes over the top of the sticker is not as seamless as there, but still very, very, very little. It's not raised much at all. So really, really good quality. So I trust that Porsche have got enough clear on here to work with. There were some really deep marks here. There's a deep one here that you can't see, you won't see on camera, but I'll try put up a still image. There's a deep mark here I couldn't get rid of, about 7 passes of cap heavy with wool, and I ran out of what was the right word to use? I was just I wasn't confident in cutting anymore here, and I want to leave some fat. That's a really deep mark. So that's one of only 2 or 3 little imperfections that remain. These panels are really difficult to work with. You've got a lot of, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, a lot of plastic. I wish Porsche had put a carbon piece here, maybe cleared carbon instead of plastic, and this plastic moves around a lot. It is race car, so you can forgive them for having some things. This is another area that I'm not happy with. This is very difficult to mask. You can see this lip, it's already lifting up at the edge here. I don't like that at all. So when I masked across this and brought the masking tape right up, and then I peeled it off this way so that not to lift that up anymore. A little bit of dust there. So I was explaining to Mary, it's difficult to work with because of the shapes and all the little vents and things, and not trying to make sure that you mask everything. It's time consuming because you have to mask all this plastic, these little plastics here. I mask the top of this, so when I'm buffing here, I don't accidentally hit this. You've got all these different shapes, so I was using lots of small pads to get into spots that were required, because you had a lot of scratches all the way right up in here, underneath here, and you could kind of see them too. Customers are, again, very fussy, so he will notice if something's not done, and he did say, don't spare anything, go nuts. Cleared carbon was actually probably the easiest part to work on. So the backs of the mirrors and the roof had needed a lot of work, but it was fairly easy. Once we masked off these, again, more plastic aero, and once we masked off this strip here, which is notorious for going white. Porsche have used this same material and this same strip on quite a few models over a few decades. And if you hit that even for half a second with a buff, it goes white, and it's done. So you've got to mask that, and you've got to mask this, a lot of time masking. But otherwise, the cleared carbon, really, really nice material to work with. I found it a little bit sticky, which is not, did a white 911 a couple of months ago, completely different paintwork. The white 911, hard paint, really easy to polish, no feedback. This one gave a little bit of feedback, it was really sticky. On the roof, I used a 6-inch pad, and it was just a little bit too big, so I went back to a 5-inch, and that relieved that, and it was a lot smoother. At first, I thought it might have been a coating that I didn't remove with the prep. So I went over it with Cleanse Strong and Paint Cleanse to remove what I thought was left of that coating, and then the buffing would be a little smoother, but that wasn't the case. It's just the paint type, the clear that they're using, and not just on the carbon, but on the white sections as well. There was driver's door handle just above the driver's door handle, I think. There was a lot of denibbing right on this edge here, so it took quite a lot of processes to get that buffed out. And then after I'd finished the car, when I thought it was all done and I was on to the second stage and started refining, I noticed a big denib here, and that had gone right under they had sanded at the factory to get some dirt out or something, right under this crease line here. There's a big ugly denib there. So just a lot of time with heavy cutting, which isn't a problem because it's new and it's Porsche, so I know that there's a lot of material to work with. I did a paint thickness test, plenty to work with. There's no thin paint here or anything like that. You hear some, I do research the cars a little bit, and I watch some reviews and see what the car's like, and I might come across some other detailers who have worked on this, and they'll say things like, it's super thin paint because it's a race car and they've tried to save weight. I hear those things all the time, and then when I get the cars in and I do some of my own testing, that's complete nonsense. This is just as thick as normal paint. The only issues really are the fact that it's got all these curves to deal with. It's unfortunate you can't polish in here because it has the PPF. It's also unfortunate, Mary, that there's a little bit of hair stuck under the PPF from factory. That's Schultz's hair there. Another thing that I wish I could have repaired, but I can't, is some marks around the number plate. I think when the number plate was fit, they scratched up this section a little bit, and there's a little bit of this material here removed. It feels like I thought it was plastic, but it's kind of like a rubberized material on here, and there's just a little bit of material removed there, and I'm sure the customer will probably order a new piece or have that bit painted in that rubberized material. But otherwise, the car's, for some very, very few and very, very minor issues left behind, but otherwise it's in really good nick. This actually wasn't as difficult as I thought. I thought this would be really difficult to polish for two reasons: because of the shape and the angle that you had to maintain, and I'm now mid-40s, so I'm not 21 anymore, and it's kind of hard to be upside down polishing things, but this actually wasn't too difficult. The other reason I thought that this might be difficult is because these letters are raised. This is vinyl that sits on top of the carbon. It's not clear-coated vinyl. The vinyl isn't clear-coated underneath, which I think is good, because if this was mine, I'd remove that Porsche vinyl, because I think you know it's a Porsche. It doesn't need 5-foot-long vinyl to tell you it's a Porsche. But then again, people would say that's sacrilege to remove factory fit vinyl lettering. This lettering here is already coming up, already pretty typical. Every time Porsche use vinyl lettering on the back of the car, the edges catch unfortunately for this customer, he takes it to a car wash and they use a sponge, and it catches the edge of the sponge and it starts to peel up all the letters. This is pretty simple, because you can just get any vinyl guy to reprint this, or you can just order some new stickers from Porsche and just put them back. But I really wish that they had either cleared over the top of this or put an actual badge there. Really tricky to get in and around these. Even more tricky to get in between here. So this is not too big a deal. For that, I used some very, very small pads. We used 10mm pads to get into there. But to get into between these letters, I just put a bit of polish on a nanofiber cloth, paintwork cloth, and just pushed it around in there. Didn't really need much anyway, but I just wanted to clean in between the letters as well. Same for the tail lights here. What I did for here was use a normal, I think a 50mm pad. So these are new to FI, 50mm pad in here, and I masked the bottom of that lip there. Didn't need to be, but just in case I lost control of the pad and the backing plate came in contact with that paint, I just put a little bit of masking tape. Always put masking tape. It takes about 5 seconds and it costs about 5 cents. It's cheap insurance. Always mask more than you think you may need. Tyres, left tyres undressed. These are clean. These have been cleaned with Jaffa and cleansed strong. I also washed the car 4 times in between the paint correction processes. So these are, I don't know if you can hear that. These are nice and gummy and grippy, and they, I think, in my opinion, but you let me know what you think. I think race rubber, or anything that's close to race, that's close to a slick, shouldn't be dressed, shouldn't have tyre dressing. I should say that everything needs tyre dressing and promote our tyre dressing, Royal Satin, but I don't know, what do you reckon, Mary? On a car like this, do you think those tyres should be Boy Racer black, or? No. They look good like that. It suits the car, right? Yeah, and because of the body style, if you get any of it flicking off, you'll get it straight onto all the plastic and you get that ugly little silicone. Now, the tyre being this clean and Royal Satin being what it is, it shouldn't sling. But if you do get even a little bit, you'll notice it here. But the main reason is just that it's a race car, and I just don't think that shiny tyres suit a race car. So we opted for no tyre dressing, and the customer will let me know if he wants it to stay that way or if he wants it to be, if he wants shiny tyre sidewalls. Oh yeah, one thing that was difficult, and on every car you have something, but I was just amazed at how much water was retained inside this duct. If I shot the air compressor in here, water would pour out of the bottom of the duct, and heaps of water, litres. And no matter, if I put air in there right now, even though this was washed yesterday and dried for about 45 minutes, if I put air in there, I'm betting that some water would come out of there. Why don't we just try it? See, more water's coming out. It's strange. It doesn't affect anything. I just find it real strange that the car holds a lot of water, and this is irritating because as you're polishing around here, you'll push the panel or vibrate the panel, and water will drip out, and you'll have a mess. It'll mix with the polish, and it actually harms it stops you getting a great finish. You need the body to be bone dry. I can't stand to see that water there drying up on the body, so I've got to get rid of it now. Has to go. All right, but really happy with the finish. I'm always happy with my work, and I always try hard to achieve the best I can in the time I have available, but some I'm just really super proud of. Like the black CLA we did about 4 or 5 months ago. That was an amazing job, and this is one of them. This is so close to perfect. The customer has a huge turnaround. From 10 feet away, sometimes you don't notice, especially on white. But even from 10 feet away with this one, you notice it's very, very different. Looks much, much glossier, much sharper. And of course, he's got the coating on it, and the coating's got a good surface to stick to now. So the coating's going to perform and behave much better than it would if we gave it a much simpler prep, if we did much more simple paint correction before applying the coating. So that's it. If you've got any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's what we did this week. And thanks for Mary for coming down on Saturday to operate the camera so I could do this properly. Actually, if she didn't come down, I probably wouldn't have done it at all. And thanks to Peter for being on my case for the last 3 months to make another video. All right, thanks guys. Any questions, put them somewhere and I'll answer them. Thank you, bye.